primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
in today's episode 239 of Podcast 2 for 1.
239.
239, yes. A Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/@2for1 studios. It's the best place to consume all the content. If you didn't know, listeners, and let's be honest, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Coast Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Kapow. Daniel, it's 239. And there's we have a lot going on, and in terms of just shows we're watching, Hacks, Last of Us, Andor.
Yeah.
And
we started Righteous Gemstones, by the way. Love it.
Dude,
almost done with
it's
season
fun.
1.
I'm like halfway through season 1. That's awesome. I started it months ago, and I got busy, but I do love it also.
Fantastic. And as former fundamentalist Christians,
I told you would
so
like
many
it. I was like, it's made
nuggets.
for you, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
quite, I mean, obviously Danny McBride, it's hard to go wrong with him, but I haven't watched a ton of his Danny McBride's been on HBO doing his thing for years now. Vice Principals was before this. That was him and Walton Goggins again in that.
Yep.
I've never seen that. I'll probably start that after this one. But Walton Goggins as Baby Billy is fantastic.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite part of it. He can do there's people like him, John Barenthal or Bernthal, whatever. Those kind of actors, those are the people I want to
character actors. These guys that can just do anything.
Gosh.
Yeah. I saw someone saying Walton was the best character actor at the moment. I'm like, there's probably pretty good argument for that.
If you never watched it and you want not really action, but it's got action in it, but it's just really good, Justified.
Okay.
I mean, it's him and I can't think of his name now.
I know Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah, Timothy Oliphant, and them two in it, they're so good, and it's great. It's a fantastic.
We did
show.
dip our toe into The Shield, and I think eventually we may go back to it. He's in that too. So
Walton is, or
yeah,
really.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't seen The Shield. Actually, I've never seen it. I just know because Michael Chiklis is in it. So.
He's the antagonist, one of the he's kind of the main guy trying to find out what they did or whatever kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've always want to check that out too, but never have. Anyway, we have a lot we're watching, and so I want to talk about all those things in the next few episodes. But I think there's another one that kind of come out of nowhere. I think it was first announced to the public in terms of footage or whatever, was at the Super Bowl. We had the Super Bowl trailer. And I remember us sharing it in the group of for the studio by Seth Rogen on Apple TV, sharing this trailer. It was a trailer about it within a trailer sort of thing, and the studio execs. And we were like, oh, this could be something, not sure yet.
Right.
And I think the full trailer came out, and it was like, oh, this will be made for us. And then finally started watching it, and I think it kind of confirmed all suspicions we had, where it's just this show that's built for us.
Yeah.
But it's also, it makes me a little jealous because I feel like I'm not involved in any of it. I'm like, I want to be in this environment. But I don't, you don't know this, I don't think, but I titled the thumbnail for this as a love and hate letter to Hollywood. And I think it's both of those. It's a love letter and a hate letter.
Yeah.
And one thing you can kind of count on, it's like a running joke at the Oscars every year. If there's a movie about Hollywood, then it might win Best Picture or win something significant because Hollywood loves to jerk itself off. Yes. And so this
absolutely.
is kind of in that same category where it's it's Hollywood jerking itself off. And I was going to ask you, I want your opinion on it first of all, but we're going to talk about the show broadly, nothing too specific.
Yeah.
Maybe a few things we talk about, but do you think this kind of show, while I think it will be critically well received and those kind of things, do you think the average audience will care? Because Kimley has no interest at all in this show. And I'm kind of I think it's funny, it's well written. It's the speed of it, and I love the tempo and the music and the cutting and
little Sorkin-y.
How we're editing. I like all this stuff.
No, the score is one of my favorite because they score it like an old movie. The score is I was noticing it especially in I think it was episode 3. Was the episode with Ron Howard, I think, or episode 4. One of them,
I
whichever
think
one
it's
was
episode 2. Yeah.
Ron Howard.
I think it's
Episode
2. Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was 3 or 4, but I could be wrong.
I think
Either
3 is
way.
Chinatown. I think 3 is Chinatown.
I think 4 is China. 4. The last one we watched was the noir one.
Oh, it's Chinatown. Huh.
I think that's 4.
Okay.
I think 3 is Ron and 4 because number 2 is the
What's
one
2?
shot. The oner.
Oh yeah, the one.
Oner. Yeah. But anyway, like the way they like the drum, especially the drums, are like
Yeah.
like perfectly do the like the conversation, like it stops and someone says something and then blah, someone else says something, like it's so like it's obviously scored, like they are scoring this like they used to score movies and even like plays and stuff like that, like so it has that like classical like
no
old
temp,
school
no temp score.
yeah well we're in no modern music, we're just using like a band that would play for a theater. Like you get like we used
As
to
it always
when I was in theater
should be.
When I was in theater in high school, when we did musicals, we had live bands that would play. We had an orchestra pit in the stage.
Yeah.
And they were to full drum set, full drum set, trumpets, like everything. So it feels like you're watching a play and someone's down in the orchestra pit narrate, like, accenting everything with music. It's amazing. It's that part of it is just like, it's so well done and such a beautiful homage to like old Hollywood.
One thing that scares the shit out of me this summer is Superman by James Gunn. I'm nervous about any potential needle drops. Like I just want to score. I just want to score.
Yeah. He
and
does like his needle drops.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I just don't think that fits with Superman. And the sidebar, but I'm just like, there's this great video. I'm sure you've seen it. It's YouTube, Every Frame's a Painting.
Yeah.
And there were great resources to like kill a few minutes to teach a classroom or something like that. But they also were just very intelligent and like they really made you think sometimes and whatever. And one of these was the use of temp score and basically how a director will edit with temp score and then they'll get locked to that and the edit will get locked to the temp score essentially and it only works with the temp score. And then the composer has to come in and then kind of do something similar to match that. Yeah. And then it's like, and then it starts getting like this feedback loop. And there's some movies that were temp scored with like, say, temp music. And then other movies started using like, say, that score for temp. And it's like this like evolution of just temp scores, temping scores. And it's like, and so anyway,
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And so like just the magic like you're talking about where we stop, there's a one-liner, it's going.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you saw it last year, Saturday Night Live. It's called Saturday Night. It's about basically the first night.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so like it's very similar vibe in terms of
that makes sense.
It's about production, but like the music is similar too, where it's like doom, 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 it's like and we're going, I love it. Go on.
Yeah. No, I think overall for sure I think like you said, this show is absolutely a love letter to Hollywood, but absolutely a critique of the system. You know what I mean? I think, when we're talking about normal viewers or viewers that aren't as interested, my wife does have a film degree, so she's not, completely uninitiated. She hasn't really used that side of her in a long time, but she still has that knowledge and that experience. And so she's enjoying it, you know what I mean? And so it's hard for me to base it off of that because she has more forehand knowledge than most people would. But I think too, like the thing she's enjoying most about it is the writing and the characters. It's not necessarily the inside baseball stuff. Like that to her, I don't think is probably as interesting as just she really likes who is the character, the marketing lady that was in
Catherine Hahn's character.
Yeah, she loves, and she's great. She's so good in this.
Well, she does feel like the most. This show really works because it is like here's how it really works in real life, and it's like we're going to amp it up by 10.
It's hard to know how much it's amped up though. As someone has not been on the inside of those level of meetings, like that high up the food chain, and it's like it's so hard to again forums and commenters, like you can't just because someone says that this is exactly what it's like, you have no idea if they actually fucking know or not. But I do see comments like that from people like I've been in meetings that are verbatim like this, or I've seen shit be as petty as that before, that kind of stuff. Sure. And so I think that's the part where you're like, obviously they are dramatizing it some because always do that for entertainment, but it like what parts are they is it, you know, Seth Rogen seems a bit more cartoony than probably a real executive would be. So like in that, like his character himself seems a little amped up for entertainment, but the other parts, like the system that's happening and the forces that are in play when trying to make a movie, and this person wants that, this person, like that all, that all seems pretty real. I could see all that being pretty 1-to-1 or very close.
Well, I think to me, it's like the way I really thought about it is that everything that happens in terms of the structure, in terms of like people stab each other back, it feels like that's all correct.
Yeah.
I feel like it just happens quieter and in the shadows.
Sure.
And not like this because again this is like a more modern studio, but I was at Skydance for a summer.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in like the closed door meetings, but I was everywhere. Like I mean all the doors were open. I was listening in the meetings, phone calls, and it might have been a more modern place, and it felt whatever, so maybe different that way. But it was just not like this. You know what I'm saying? It was chill, but like in the shadows. People would warn me. They'd be like, "Hey, blah blah blah. Like this is how things work, and this person's this kind of cutthroat here, blah blah blah." And so I didn't see the dirty details, but I knew it was happening. And like of course it would be happening. Why would it's going to happen anywhere to get big enough,
Sure.
But anyway, I just it's all pretty fascinating because it feels like this may be more of an older era, like 90s and pre, where it's like it is more out in the open, where it's like we're okay to kind of shit on interns and shit on throw burritos at people and fuck you and like whatever, it feels like this might have been a bygone era today.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, like in the world of, very active HR departments and, kind of just
I still think it happens.
Towing the line. Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, I think it does. Or high up enough the ladder that no one's going to fucking squeal. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like with two executives in the room, there's no interns. I'm sure they're talking like this. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure they are vulgar and crass and derivative and reductionary, like just talking about these things like that. Speaking of the Ron Howard episode, I'm sure we know there are arguments creatively in Hollywood all the time, like sometimes yelling arguments between writers and directors, between actors and directors.
And part of it's necessary to make a good product.
Sure, and obviously I think it's funny that they were using Ron Howard because he is known as one of the nicest people in Hollywood. And
well, it's good that they can take the piss out of themselves. Like Olivia,
absolutely.
What's her name? I can't think of it. What's her name? She's in the Chinatown. No, she's in the Oner episode.
Olivia,
the Chinatown episode. Yeah,
she's the director.
What's her name, dude?
Olivia Wilde.
Legacy. Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, an all-star. I mean, like, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of has had like some controversy in the last few years in terms of her attitude with like on set and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But still, it's like they're not afraid to kind of take the piss out of themselves.
Absolutely.
And kind of if they might be a nice, sweet person in real life. I don't know any of them, but they're kind of acting like entitled.
They're not Yes, they're not pretending like they're acting in a way that's not necessarily
flattering.
It's self-depreciating.
Yeah,
and I think
even Anthony Mackie, who's still nice in his Ron Howard episodes, he's still kind of like, man, I want my money, I want my back end.
No, he's like, yeah, you know, it's right, yeah, like I got back end on this, you know what I mean? Like, I love
which is real.
I love, I love the whole like kissing up to Ron Howard, and then he gets here and he's like, we got to cut that shit, man. It's so bad. And I just love
the energy is crazy.
I think that's my favorite episode because it just is the pure creator versus the studio. It's like the creator wants this 30-minute ending that is so bad that it deflates
it's
any
an
momentum
after credit scene. It's an after credit scene, I think, right? Like it's like this.
I can't remember, but
which is amazing because Sinners just come out. I haven't seen Sinners.
I heard it has some crazy after credit stuff.
But it has like a 10-minute after, which is like apparently is super essential to the plot. Apparently.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, that's a great way to get people to watch the credits. I think that's what Hollywood's figured out. But for two, I just think that episode that encapsulates just so much of the struggle of being an artist in general, of like killing your darlings, killing the thing that makes you happy, but kills the art that you're trying to share,
Yeah.
So I just,
Well,
and I think
the show does this great thing of, and all sitcoms do this, but this show is really did it just really well. Is that it's about one thing at first, and then you start getting into layers of like,
Yeah.
oh, now you have to accomplish this to accomplish that original thing.
Yeah.
Like, I have to lie about my cousin dying to get him to feel
yes.
sympathy.
But then,
like it just,
I get too sympathetic and agree with, like I love that.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And
That was so good.
I think all that kind of stuff is fantastic and it's fun and again for us, we know a lot about kind of some of the
Yeah.
things that are how some of these things are being made, especially the creative stuff
Yeah.
and the on the set stuff. And we kind of know some of the lingo, and so it's like you don't know, it just feels like I feel at home watching the show. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. It feels fun. I mean, the cast is fantastic.
They're great.
The I can't remember her name, the older lady that plays the producer. She's also on The Last of Us.
And she's in
From
like
Schitt's Creek.
Beetlejuice and Schitt's Creek, and
Yeah,
she's really
and
had a comeback the
um,
last few years.
what's the
Yeah,
Home Alone?
yeah, she's the
Catherine
bygone-
O'Hara.
Yeah,
Sorry, Catherine
Catherine
O'Hara.
O'Hara. Yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah.
I
Sorry,
know her,
Catherine.
but couldn't think of the name. But I love her character in this. Like, I just love.
She's great.
I loved her in the Oner episode where she comes out screaming at him when they walk. Like, she feels like such a real character in Hollywood and stuff like that. Obviously the Scorsese thing was just gold. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like,
The Kool-Aid thing.
the buying his
how-
movie just to kill it, and it's his last.
How
It was going to be
brilliant,
his
though.
last movie. Like that.
How brilliant!
It's
the
so
whole
good.
the whole thing about the wanting to make an animated Kool-Aid movie with Bryan Cranston, of course, which is also amazing.
Oh, yeah, and
And then
he plays the despicable executive so well. Like
He does.
the piece of shit. Like, I only
Yeah.
want money and fuck everything else kind of executive. So
And people who are listening to this right now, like we're kind of saying these like this is great, but we're not really giving context to it. Just know that like ultimately at the end of the day, this to me, another reason I really like this show is that Seth Rogen's character, even though he's got flaws, he wants everyone to like him. He wants to be the cool executive, whatever.
Right.
But
he
at
wants
the
to
end of the
bring
day,
back film. And
but at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, though, he does like he has this romanticism about
Yeah.
movies, and like to me, it's like, oh yeah, like I think the thing that at least when people get started in the business, they
Yeah.
probably all do. They probably all love movies, and I think they're probably some of it is like I have to make a Kool-Aid movie, so I get to make my Scorsese movie
Right,
kind of thing.
right.
And I think a lot of that happens, and I think I don't know, it just makes me feel good on the inside of like. Oh, there's people out there, of course, who love movies as much as I do, and it's a fun. I love the romantics.
Well,
side of it,
I think
guess.
it does. I think it's helpful to make you empathize more with the process of how complicated everything is. And I think that's what so many people, when they're critiquing films, are like, why do they do this? Why do they do that? I think sometimes what the missing context is like all of the moving parts that are involved in making that decision. And it probably so many times when people are like, that was so stupid. Why did the movie do that? That probably wasn't their first choice either. That's probably like what they
probably
had
not.
to do because of the circumstances, because of the schedules, because of the budget, whatever. That's what they had to do. That's what they had to roll with. And I think it does give some empathy, hopefully, to just the general audience to the filmmaking process. There was that line in the first episode, which is the best, I think, one of the best lines of the show, where Seth Rogen says I got into Hollywood to make movies because I love it, but I feel like now my job is to ruin them, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
He said that is a verbatim quote from an executive from like 15 years ago, kind of
sense.
thing, where they're like, that's what they said to him. And he kind of broke his, because there was like just some like, that's sad. Like there's just some like, like, I don't know, that's hard to deal with, like that's not why you wanted to get into this, but you realize like the only way to do it is to fit into this system that is kind of ruthless and brutal and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so I think, I hope that it's kind of generating some more understanding and empathy for what's going on when a film gets made, or really just when art gets made. That's like being made for commercial worldwide audiences. There's just so much, everything affects everything, and the bigger you get, the more factors involved, and the more complicated it gets, and the harder it gets to pull off something amazing. And so I think it also kind of makes those films that are amazing. The Christopher Nolan movies, like these other ones that are just like the pinnacle of filmmaking, like really you respect them even more. You know what I mean? That like they were in this system
It's
and they
truly a
still made
miracle.
that. Like even for instance, you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, that movie in this system almost feels impossible. Like that any, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but they made
Honestly,
it
they
and then it
all
won an
feel
Oscar
impossible.
and, you know, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. But like that kind of movie is so against like so many there's you know the marketing department would have said, why do we have to have dildos? We need to market this to younger people. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
so many reasons that movie couldn't have been amazing, and you see them in this show. You see all the factors that could have prevented it, could have held it back. But I think it makes it even more remarkable that they were able to pull it off and take all these giant risks. I mean, the whole scene is two rocks talking to each other. Like, you just, like, who would have proved that? Like, you watch the show and you're like, no one in this team would have been okay with this. Like, everyone would have hated it. You know, so I think it's just, I don't know. We already had this understanding and knowledge and respect for the process, I think, or at least a bit of it. But I hope this show can kind of spread that, because I think it's important when we're critiquing stuff to kind of understand what all went into it.
You haven't got there yet, but there's an episode, I think it's episode 6, where it's all about what is art, and also like why we need art. Just as important, just as much as why we need
Like
other
as a
things in
society.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course it's crazy, and it's like there's crazy talk
Of
around
course.
everything, but actually it's like probably my least favorite episode maybe, but but you know we're getting to have this kind of conversations, and I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
you know people all the time they're like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I write or whatever, and
Yeah.
I work
Yeah.
on videos, and you just kind of see this kind of flash in their eyes sometimes, where it's like,
Sure.
oh, they're not going to make it, or oh, they're
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
they're doing something like creative, whatever, and
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, yeah, but there's a reason why we talked about a minute ago. There's so many people in the credits, and the credits are long because those
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
working, and
Yeah.
also I think, like, for me, I had a really bad day a month or so ago, and what did I
Yeah.
do? I left here and went to the movie theater. That's
Yeah.
what I did.
Yeah.
And like, to
Yeah.
me, that's my church. That's
Right.
my that to me, the church. I'm not very religious, but the church, the gym, the movie theater, like one of the three last
Sure.
like social contracts we have, where you go in there,
Sure.
everyone kind of agrees we're there for the same purpose.
Sure.
We're going to be quiet when we need to be quiet. We're
Yeah.
going to cheer and clap when we don't, and we're all there for the same goal at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to me, I love the aspect of like we're having kind of
Yeah.
conversations like this, and also it's it's one of those things too. Like, you look at Seth Rogen, he was like
Mhm.
started out like Freaks and Geeks, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was on these movies like
Raunchy comedies was just
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, and if you ever listen to him like in podcasts, or just
Yeah.
listen to him in interviews and stuff, it's funny. It's kind of crazy like how much he's been writing and producing
Yeah. Yeah.
since the beginning.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you really think about it, and look at some of the stuff we talk about all the time, Invincible, The
Yeah.
Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, like the list, and like there's a show he did last year on Apple TV I really liked with him. I can't think of her name, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
And so it's like he is a creator. He does not look like a creator. He does not talk
Sure.
like he did TMNT, the Great Mutant Mayhem animated
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
a year or
Yeah.
two ago. That was
Yeah.
him.
He directed or
And
produced it at least?
he produced it, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
helped write it. And so it's
Yeah.
like, that guy is a true creative.
He
And
is.
and especially you're seeing him like they're just flexing like every episode, like, oh, here's
Yeah.
a Chinatown homage, and it's gonna be we're gonna get a trench coat and like hat, it's
Yeah.
just it's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was that I loved the whole noir. I mean, him putting his journal, like taking notes into his phone so he can narrate, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's
I love how they
brilliant.
rationalized it all. Yeah, it was so great. You're absolutely right, and I think it's interesting. There's this trend of like, you think about him and Craig Mazin, two people that came from similar beginnings of just like off-color comedy, kind of lowbrow, maybe, kind of taking the cheap jokes every time, kind of movies and comedy. And well, for one, and I know that they say, you have to be pretty intelligent to write comedy. You gotta,
do.
you know what I mean? You have to have
It's
an
hard.
understanding of the world and culture and society to make funny jokes, especially like in movies that are going to be widely loved. And so, like The Hangover or Pineapple Express, these movies that have become like moments
Well,
in like
you
a lot
know,
of people's
Craig
youth.
Mazin, I think the first thing he directed was Superhero the movie.
Super.
That
Oh, wow.
soup, that
Well, he
spoof.
wrote or directed? He directed
I
that.
think he did both. I know
Okay.
he directed
Well,
it. I know he
I don't
directed
think he
it.
even did. I think he did The Hangover Part 3. I don't think he did the first Hangover. I
Oh,
think he
really?
did
Okay,
The
I didn't know
Hangover
that.
Part 3. So like
Gotcha.
the one no one's seen that I know of. I don't know anyone that's seen it.
I've seen it,
Okay,
of
well, I
course.
know one person. Damn it.
There you go.
But like it's just interesting. There's this trend of like, yeah, these people that start in kind of, I'm saying this with quotes, lowbrow entertainment. I don't actually think of it that way, but what a lot of people see is lowbrow, and now they are leading the way in this really interesting drama, kind of social commentary projects. And I just think that's an interesting thing we're seeing, and I think there's, I don't know, it's just interesting. But I mean, I
Well,
totally agree. I
we're
think
just
Seth Rogen right now seems like one of the busiest people in Hollywood, and kind of also like one of the most, like, he's not really missing much. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's not in-game levels of success or something, like, it's not like he's not putting out stinkers. You know what I mean?
no,
He's
no.
pretty consistently delivering what people want from what he's given them. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, when you think about that and you look at his resume, especially recently, it's like, damn, I mean, like, like 10 years ago, if you told me
No.
Seth Rogen is going to be like leading the way in Hollywood in 10 years, like, nah, no,
Yeah, I mean,
you know
one of
what I
my
mean?
favorite things, period, is Invincible. Like we talk, like we
Yeah,
both
yeah,
salivate for that show, and
yeah,
he's like one of the driving forces behind it.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Craig Mazin. Again, of course, we are watching The Last of Us, and we will talk about that at some point, listeners.
Yes, yes. Hopefully with
But
Jason Miller.
hopefully, Jason Miller, Jason, if you're listening, we're coming for you. And for side note, it's always weird to hear him talk like in the back end of the episode because I'm like I've been listening to him for like a week for 10 years, and I'm
Okay,
like
yeah.
it's just like one of those things too, like when you have an action figure and then someone else gets to play with it, and you're like I knew about him first. So
Yeah,
it's like it's
yeah,
kind of like that too.
yeah.
But I brought this up last night. And I was like I cannot wait to get on the podcast, Kimberly, to tell Daniel and the world this. Have you been watching these like, little stinger things of like behind the scenes
For The Last of Us?
on you haven't watched those? Did you watch it on like House of the Dragon and all
No,
and Severance and
I
you
don't,
didn't
I
watch any of
don't ever
those?
really watch them. Yeah, no.
Oh, see, I've always like loved like to me, HBO/Max was doing this and like it
Yeah.
kind of made me feel like oh this is more premium television,
Sure,
like
sure.
because I get like a behind the scenes thing with like
Yeah,
the writers and the showrunners.
yeah,
Um, I will tell us back in the studio in a second with a question. But and then Apple TV was doing it a little bit with
yeah,
Severance.
yeah.
Studio does not do it, but
Game
Severance
of
and
Thrones
whatever.
kind of started it. A lot of
Game
it
of
did.
Thrones, I
Yeah,
feel like kind of started it.
yeah.
Dude, The Last of Us and Hacks. The
Mm,
Last of Us, their thing is like 9 minutes long.
wow,
And Hacks is like 4 minutes long or 5 minutes. And
wow.
it's like they used to be a minute and a half. And they're getting
Yeah.
anyway, if you haven't seen them, it's not really
Mm.
not something to
It's
talk
interesting
about.
because
But
it's like all that stuff it used to be on DVD extras. They're just including it in at the end of the episodes. I used to. I mean, like I remember back in the day getting the Lord of the Rings and like watching the bonus disc more than the
yeah.
movie. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Just because it was so there was like an hour and a half documentary on that about them making
Oh
the
yeah.
movies.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
so
it's one of the best examples is the Lord of the Rings special features. Yeah.
yeah, it's like all the behind. You see so much cool shit of how they did it. Anyway, so yeah, I think
Well, I
I
brought that
do
up
enjoy this stuff,
to
but
I brought that up mainly to complain about to quote Craig Mazin to have some umbrage, but to talk about that. But the reason I brought Craig Mazin back into it was it feels like we're back in this stage of Hollywood where the writers are having so much power, and a lot of times the
Mhm.
writers are the directors again.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah,
this has been happening for a little bit. Like we have our
yeah,
Nolans, we have our, I guess Ryan Cooglers and
yeah, yeah,
whatever. But it just
yeah,
feels like even more now so than ever, we have writer directors. We don't
yeah,
have just directors or
yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I think obviously the trend towards long form storytelling serials like series is we get way more series than movies these days, and I think a lot of people would say they like, oh yeah, I'd like to like I generally like having a series than a movie just because if it's a good series, that's 10 hours, 15 hours of ongoing entertainment and more room to tell a story than a movie. And so I wonder, so I think part of it is that like writing then becomes more important maybe in series when you don't have like the typical movie set pieces or structures that maybe can supplement maybe, not as high quality writing or whatever. I just think because it is so much more story, because there's so much more characters, there are more monologues, there's more plot, there's more everything. I mean, the writing kind of becomes that much more important. You know what I mean?
Well, traditionally in like television shows, the writer has more power than the directors, so the directors are
Sure.
typically like week to week. And
Sure.
it's flipped in features, right? Where
Right.
the writers basically like they can write the movie and like they almost
Yes.
lose it almost.
Yes.
Like
They
the
yeah, they
worst
have no
case.
power anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, worst case scenario, they lose it and they don't get to have input or not on the
Right.
days, whatever.
Right.
Best case scenario is that they're there helping the director and rewriting stuff on the day and
Yes.
have a trailer or
Yes.
whatever. But it's in which I just feel like we're kind of just in this place where like when we listen to like interviews now, like
Yeah.
people are interested in like the writers and the direct. You know what I'm saying? Like it just feels
Yeah.
like they're becoming more as big as stars as our actors are.
Well, I do think it to me it does connect to that serial format of storytelling, and just that because we are at this point with streaming that there is a constant deluge of new content. Most of it is shit. Most of it is not good. And I think, that is where we've come to with streaming. It used to be like there was, old shows, and then every time a new show was like a big deal. Oh, we got a new show on streaming, or whatever. And now it's not like that anymore. Now there's billions of things to watch, and everyone's got 4 streaming services. And like, I think part of it is probably that because there are so many options, what rises to the top is the high quality stuff. You know what I mean? What people actually pay attention to is the stuff that has good writing in it. You know what I mean? And I think you can look at The Last of Us, you can look at The Studio, you can look at Hacks, you can look at Severance, and say, I can point out issues I have with those shows. I can find grievances with plot, with character arcs, with all these different things. But I cannot deny that the writing isn't top notch. It's just good. It's at the level that where characters sound like real people. It's just like as a viewer, it's almost like I need that's almost a bare minimum these days that I need to engage with the show, is that like the writing is decent, that they talk normal. They don't talk like CW characters, no offense. They don't talk like, kid, anime characters where they're going to espouse everything they're doing. Like I remember there was like this article about how Netflix was trying to tell their writers that all the characters needed to say what they were doing while they were doing it because of how many people walk at their phones while they're watching shows. And that was just like, that's a good way to make me never watch your show, is if you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's bad.
Exactly. Like and so like, I think to me, it's like, maybe it's like as viewers have become more learned and like as Hollywood has developed, we're developing a more refined taste for what we find acceptable in storytelling. And I think, I think for me, and I think for a lot of other people that like really only kind of are interested in the premium, like we want the HBOs, we want, the Stranger Things, these pinnacle of TV, pinnacle of entertainment. That's kind of like, it's hard for me to go below that and enjoy myself. You know what I mean? Or find anything engaging. And I think it's just maybe it's just the audiences are changing. Maybe it's just the amount of options. There's so many options that like the ones that are good almost stand out more because of how shit everything else is. So I don't know. There's a lot of factors at play.
There's another thing too, is like if you pick any of these shows that we've talked about on the podcast, Studios, Last of Us, if you pick that show up and threw it 15 years in the past, it would, even the ones that like don't do as like that we don't love as much as others.
Sure.
Those would be like considered one of the greatest TV shows of all time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
they're timeless. Yeah.
Well, it's not even just that. It's just that the bar has been raised so high in television. I mean, we've become so much more sophisticated in like how we're telling stories,
Sure.
the length we're telling stories, and what we're allowed to do with stories now.
Right.
And so, like, I mean, even if you take, I mean, Severance season 2, you had its problems, right?
Yeah.
But if you took that and threw it in the past, no one would ever complain about any of those problems you said, because already it'd be so much higher and better than
right. It'd be like
you know
the
what I'm saying?
Lost, like where we like I have a love for Lost that really glosses over a lot of the issues, partly because of the time it came out, but like it would
If Lost
be
came out
that
today,
it would if we swap places, Lost would be the new Severance because Severance would probably have done it better. You know what I mean? Like it is that level of like,
Well, I
yes,
mean, if Lost come out today, yeah, like your inverse, if Lost come out today, we'd be like,
it would have,
oh,
it'd be like, apparently there's this show called From that is very much, it's got the same guy that plays Michael from Lost, that
oh,
yells,
really?
Walt. But he's in it. And apparently it is totally just a like Lost spiritual successor, but in the worst ways where things just don't
Oh,
make fucking sense and they're just random and like, whoa,
yeah,
we didn't see that coming, kind of shit. And they just decide not to answer some mysteries that are brought up because,
oh,
oh well,
yeah. Who
but
cares?
I mean, I think you're right in that, like, I mean, the shows that we talk about at any point, if they came out, they would be the talk of the town. They would take over the zeitgeist for entertainment. And I think, I mean, and that it's the same way. You go back to the shows that started this. You go back to the Sopranos. If the Sopranos came out today, it's still the fucking Sopranos, baby. Like it's still gonna do.
You don't
Sopranos
feel
level
like
shit.
it's any like it's a little behind it all. I mean, like, is it? I would assume the episode count is like my
It's
probably
like 10
biggest.
apiece.
It's only 10 apiece. Okay,
Every
thought it was
season's
more.
like 10. Yeah, it's like
Okay,
what that and The Wire kind of started this trend of like 10 episode,
okay,
highly
but it
impactful,
feels.
compact. Oh, dude,
I've
like I
seen
mean,
scenes from it, but
I mean,
it
of
feels
course,
like
it's made it. It started in 1999, so it kind of has that old school Hollywood. Like the cinematography doesn't grab you, it doesn't jump out like in Severance, but it's perfect. It's like that perfect 90s Hollywood. Everything's lit perfectly, everything's shot perfectly. There's nothing ever wrong with the production, even if it's not
oh,
like,
dude,
oh, I can.
I've got a
I'm like,
recommendation for you.
okay, but anyways,
Yeah.
but like the writing, the arcs, the acting, all of that, that's still like, I mean, I think, for the Sopranos, I think what everyone mostly appreciates about it is the writing and the acting, the character arcs or the lack thereof. And I think, I don't think I mean, I think of course there are shows that have been amazing, but it's like, I don't think anything's eclipsed that. I can't think of anything that's done it better, maybe at the level, but not better. You know what I mean? And I think, I think if that comes out today, it's still doing everything that it does. The Wire is interesting because it's such a product of its time and the topics it's talking about. And it was kind of early. It was one of the first, not one, it wasn't the first, but it was one of those early shows that was kind of showing you the ugly side of police and not kind of giving you this Law and Order propaganda kind of stuff. So maybe that one is a little more product of its time and its impact is a product of its time. Because if it came out today, it would just be kind of another one doing that. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot of shows and movies that are tackling that. So it'd just be another one versus it was like one of the earliest ones to really do it well. But yeah, I mean, I think, when I think about the best shows of all time, I mean, like, it doesn't matter when they would have come out, they would have still been that good, and I think, again, the writing is the thing that underpins all of it. The production changes, the styles change, the acting styles change, all of that changes with time, but good writing is kind of been the same way since we started figuring out novels. Like we figured out how good writing worked hundreds of years ago. And so I think, I think to me, that's the thing that just underpins. If it's good, if it's well written, it's going to, have a good chance to stand the test of time.
Last thing I'll say here, it's kind of a sidebar. You brought up good lighting in the late 90s. Me and Kimley, she wanted to watch ER for a second
Oh, yeah.
because
Did y'all try the pit?
that's why.
Did
So
y'all
have you
try
watched
it?
the pit?
No,
We
I
watched
haven't.
the whole thing, dude. Like
I just,
we watched like
sometimes I'm
probably
like,
three
I don't
episodes a
have enough
night.
stress. You know what I mean? Like I have enough
It's
stress and anxiety. I don't know if I want to
yeah. I mean, I
watch a
don't.
show that's purely that.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't shows don't really do it to me, I guess. But the
Yeah.
only thing I have a problem with is I actually kind of have a problem with like watching people like, get surgery and get cut
Sure.
on.
Sure.
That kind of stuff actually makes me like it's hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I was telling Kimley, because after that we watched the first episode of ER and the first episode of Grey's Anatomy, which are great
Oh, wow.
examples of,
Yeah.
of the bygone era.
Yeah.
And she's like, "It's not the same." I was like, "It's not because the pit, you probably know this, but our listeners may not, is that it's one 15-hour shift. It's like
Right. Yeah. It's all, it takes
it's
place in one day. Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's 24, but in the, like ER emergency unit,
Yeah.
and essentially, what is if you really start thinking about it from a writing standpoint, like you have someone come in on a case, someone come in who's injured,
Yeah.
like they're still there for 3 or 4 episodes while they're getting treated as like a B plot, and then like
Sure,
symptoms are, you know what I'm saying? Like I cannot imagine the the brain power to make
sure.
that show for a medical show for a 15-hour drama.
Yeah.
It's good, dude. If you it's got some good character stuff in it. I mean, it's quality
I bet
TV.
eventually we will pick it up. It just has to be the right season of life
Yeah,
where it's like, I
yeah.
want
It's gonna
something
be
that's
Emmy award winning for sure, 100%.
gripping me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a medical. I mean, I like watching medical shows, but I don't like
Sure,
just watch all of them. But
sure.
this is like, oh, this is my favorite by far. There's not even
Mm,
competition.
mm.
Anyway, the studio. I think if to kind of to bring it all back, the studio, like what we're talking about here, it's a love letter to writing and to
Yeah,
filmmaking techniques that we
yes.
have been, seeing in a lot of different movies for the last 100 years.
Yeah,
And like in Chinatown, we're getting kind of the noir thriller, even down to the score, the shot composition, and down to like the type of structure, it's narratively. And so I think if you're a film lover, you're really gonna like the studio. And if you're someone who's like maybe on the fence about it, whatever, I think you're going to have a good time with it. Even if you don't
yeah,
get the references, if you don't get that kind of stuff, you're going to still kind of get like, oh, this is what this maybe bit part of the business I don't know about. This is kind of what
yeah,
it is on a hyper level. And also it's going to be, again, it is going to pull on you a little bit emotionally. Like
yeah.
you're going to feel the romanticism, but it's ultimately at the end of the day a comedy. So
Yeah,
check
yeah,
it out.
it's a little similar to the newsroom in that way. I know you've watched the newsroom, right?
I've only seen the first
Like
episode.
that clip that's with
I've only seen the first
always
clip from the first
with the Jeff
episode.
Daniels clip that everyone's like shares
Yeah,
online.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that a lot.
It's a good clip, but it has a similar. I mean, it's a Sorkin. It's written and directed and produced by Aaron
Yeah,
Sorkin. It's HBO. It's really good. But I do think, and it's not a comedy. It's a drama, straight up drama.
yeah,
But there are some similarities in just that. Yeah, it's like, we talk about how like one of the in filmmaking and writing, one way to make an audience like a character is to make them really, really good at like a profession. Like we like characters that are like experts at their craft or whatever, you know what I mean? And I think you got a little bit of that, and I think you got a little bit of that in this. It's like it's fun. I think the writing is quick and poppy, and the humor is quick. The flow of the episodes always is fast. Like you're never bored. I don't feel like the show ever lets you get bored. And so there's a lot of just good things about it that I think anyone would like. I think it is. Well, I'm very curious if this will get a season 2. You know what I mean? Like Apple
yeah.
TV does seem to be a bit more generous with that kind of stuff versus like Netflix. If you don't get these numbers, I don't care how popular you are, you're fucking gone. Apple TV seems to be. I mean, Apple TV seems to be a bit more interested in the art than the numbers, at least right now. And maybe that's just because they're like Apple and they have like billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. They're just sitting there not doing anything. And so they're like, fuck it. Why not throw some more at this? We got more, and maybe that's the power of being one of the richest companies on the world that has ever existed, is you can just make art without having to care about as much of the
Even if
return.
even if it's at a slower pace, like eventually your catalog is gonna be so strong.
You're absolutely right, and I think, and also they're building a reputation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're
I
building
mean,
a
they're
reputation. I mean, like it's
Emmys,
now we're getting to the point where like, man, a new Apple TV show, we should keep our eye on that.
I
They're
mean,
doing really
yeah,
good over there. And they're not HBO yet, but they're trying to compete at that level, and I think that's great.
I do too.
But I
I do too.
think whether or not this gets a season 2, I think this will be a show that has like a significance. You know what I mean? Like even if season 1's all we get, it will be kind of this time capsule a little bit of what Hollywood was like at the time, or a little bit before, like you said, but also just like this inside peek that, will stand out. I think even if it doesn't become this like hit show. You know what I mean? So I think it will have it feels like a show that could have a really strong cult following, even if it doesn't ever get to that level.
That's what I'm afraid of, honestly.
And like I said, I am too. I'm optimistic because I trust Apple a bit more than I trust Netflix, especially Warner Brothers, in terms of like what they're going to do with their content or what their priorities are. But yeah, we'll see.
Very curious about it. I was thinking about this too, and we'll have to talk about this part. I just want to say it out loud. Like, I can't imagine being born even 5 years ago and then having to not play catch up, but it's like, hey, what shows should I watch? And like, and A, just missing out on all, because you would miss out, right?
Sure.
And then B, it's like, like we really did hit it. I mean, would I like to be born tomorrow versus 32 years ago? Absolutely. But we did hit a good space where we get to see all these things happening in real time. Like the golden age of television, like it started on our watch and it's still
Yeah,
going on our watch, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I think just the decentralization of storytelling. You know what I mean? The amount of web series that are now being more and more popular, the amount of, YouTube series that have had Hollywood level production put into it. You know what I mean? I think, and I just think even too, like, I mean, the fact that these days Netflix isn't competing with Paramount Plus or HBO, they're competing with YouTube. You know what I mean? Like that is where especially for the youth, like they're trying to get people to not watch YouTube and watch Netflix. And that's difficult. And so like, entertainment as a whole has become so much more, I don't know, decentralized, like global, like anyone can be a YouTube star. Anyone can entertain you online with a 30-minute video. You don't need, all these other things you used to need for that. And so I think, that is obviously causing a lot of ripples throughout the entertainment industry. But yeah, we're just in this really interesting time where like storytelling, as a medium has never been more accessible or more, you can just do it yourself and build an audience. At the same time, it's even harder to stand out. But I think that is why the same stuff that stood out 20 years ago is the same stuff that's standing out now. The stuff that was written really well. Good characters, good dialogue, interesting plot. That's what always stands out. And it's even like in the YouTube stuff, people that can tell a good story, people that can, dramatize things, keep people interested. Those are the channels that are huge. You know what I mean? Those are the channels that make the buku bucks. And so, it is very interesting where we go, where the industry goes from here. You've got shows like Nathan For You, or these like
I cannot wait to start season 2.
Yeah, I need to start. I need to start the whole thing. I never started. I know it's
Dude,
gonna.
the
I know I'm
first
gonna love it.
season is brilliant.
Yeah, and like that are kind of breaking the bounds of reality versus like they're fudging the lines between reality and narrative. Like
So good.
and honestly, like that kind of content, you almost feel like that kind of started on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like those kind of like pranks that were trying to actually highlight an issue, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like and so yeah, we're just at this really interesting point where it's all trying to get figured out. You mean like there's less and less productions in Hollywood. That number seem to be going down. Like we're at a point where like I don't know what Hollywood looks like. The town of Hollywood, not Hollywood as an industry. I don't know what Hollywood the city looks like in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but we're definitely it's an exciting time to be
It's exciting and scary.
A consumer and a creator. It is. I mean, there's always, the fear. In some ways, again, this is another point where I'm like, I'm kind of glad I wasn't knee deep in the industry before this. You know what I mean? Like there's this element of like being able to enter at a point where change is already underway and you can kind of jump on the wagon of the new trends versus getting entrenched in the old stuff and then being unable to change or something. But anyway,
I agree. Have you seen these like videos where it's like 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 a meme videos, but it's like a AI where it's like a man made out of pizza eating pizza. Have you seen these videos?
the crazy ass stuff. Yeah,
Dude, it is like the ones that have gone around the last week. They're photorealistic. It's like it looks like it's real life. If someone said I found this creature in the jungle and I videoed it eating pizza, I'd be like,
sure.
And so like I don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
with our industry in the next
Yeah,
5-10 years.
but it's interesting, too,
And it's
because
kind of scary.
The audiences seem to mostly dislike AI though. Like people don't want it. Like when people recognize AI in a trailer or in a movie poster, there's giant levels of backlash. You know what I mean? Like
no, I mean what you're seeing. What are you talking about? You're seeing like people who watch TV shows, like people who are champions for art. I see them like complaining about AI.
Sure.
I don't see the average goer complaining about
no, the
AI
person that's
and special
engaged
visual
in the
effects.
conversation of the art, whether it's TV, whether it's games,
Well, it's
the
typically
people that are
artists, you know?
involved, it is, but there are people that are just, I mean, there's YouTubers that I've watched every film in the Criterion Collection. They don't make
But
movies.
sure. Well, YouTuber, okay, listen, but the word you said was recognize. We're going to get to a point where we're not going to be able to recognize anything.
I don't think so. I actually don't.
I don't know,
think-
dude. I mean,
I think there's
I'm
always going
telling
to be
you,
a tell.
I watched this video and I was like, I can't tell. I mean, obviously, my
There's a
brain
man
knows
that made a
that.
pizza, though.
My brain knows there's a man made of pizza, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like I can't tell. Like I mean, eventually, and I've
Yeah,
seen videos where it's like, "Hey, edit me an 8 second short film where this guy's driving down the street and he listens to the
sure.
camera and smokes a cigarette, blah blah blah," and it makes it, and you're
Sure.
like, crazy. Like I mean, I mean, to
I,
me,
I, I hear you. It's just to
I
me
don't.
that
I
that
no,
doesn't
no,
cross
my
over
thing
into.
is,
Yeah, go ahead.
I said I don't know. I
Sure.
don't know what's going to happen in 5, 10 years and how that's going to
Yeah.
affect us or not affect us. We know some studios are already getting in trouble for
Yeah.
dipping into AI
Well,
and
I
like
think I
kind
think
of
that,
brushing it off. And
like what you said, 99% of artists want nothing to do with it, or very little. They don't want it to be expressed. They don't mind using it as a tool for things, but they don't want it to be the expression. And at the end of the day, Hollywood can't make shit without their artists. It's the shit, the deluge of shit that gets pumped out is usually like not artist led content. It's we need
no,
this,
I
we need to
agree.
hit these
Well,
metrics. I just don't see that. Like we're never
but
going to
this is
get
the
AI to make
existential.
Severance. I don't think
This
AI can ever make Severance.
this
I
is
don't
the
think we'll ever
existential
be able to
part
do that.
though. Is like what are we going to lose during all this? Are we going to lose more movie theaters? Are we? I mean,
Sure.
when
No,
people
you're
because
right. There will be loss in the transition for sure.
yeah, I don't know. That's my big concern. Do I think that we're gonna have artists who like Chris Nolan who like yeah, of course. But my thing is like, Hollywood will want to like ban all this so they can keep their jobs and they can
The
keep
artist
making
side,
art.
yeah, for
And
sure.
I want that art. I don't ever want AI art ever.
No.
But there's going to be people who are going to use it because they can and they're going to be able to carve out something and it's going to get bigger because like it's like getting YouTube or becoming a content creator for the first time 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There's something that's going to happen with AI, and I don't know how the battle's going to shake out is my
I mean,
question.
I'm sure you are right. There are going to be people that make AI art, and then there are going to be audiences that are very interested in that. I just don't think that's going to be giant audiences, personally.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
just I just don't think. Yes, there are going to be people that don't care. You know what I mean? I think in some ways I think about it like music is also having a crisis of AI. Because of the amount of things where you can just say, make me a song like this, and it just spits out a whole song with lyrics and
Crazy.
everything, right? So
Yeah.
like musicians, artists, this is a big conversation in music production and audio production as much as it is in film. And I remember seeing there's been many conversations I've just been ingesting and reading and discussing with, and I've seen people like talk about, well, like whenever I listen to Spotify, I don't even know what the song's called. I don't even check. Like I'm just putting on a playlist and it's just playing, right? Like, yes, there will be people like that, but I don't think that's, and like, yes, will there be AI music that takes over the elevator music industry? Yes. AI music
What a
will
brilliant
be
idea.
fine enough to like just be the background noise that you don't pay attention to, but
There's an idea there somewhere.
no, but like, yes, I think
Yeah.
so. But I think the people that are like, to me, it's like, is that any different than like the industry slop of like like just unimaginative reused pop songs that are just the same four chords with different words that are just like, to me, it's like we already have people that can make AI level of shit. That like AI can't do anything new there. And the people that stand out are the artists, are the people that put all this time and energy and thought and care into what they're doing. And AI just can't do that. AI doesn't have emotions.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
just think, to
I
me,
look
it's just
at
there's
it.
always going to be a line. Yes, there will be. You're right. And I think too, like I think about it like this. There are some artists that I've
I know
seen.
I'm right. I mean, yeah, I know I'm right.
You are right. There are artists that I've seen, music artists, where like they have really, really good Spotify numbers, 40,000 plays a week, or what, just really good numbers, and they'll share like, yeah, here's all the music I'm making. And then you look at it, what are they making? They're just making ambient music. They're just making music that plays in the background for people,
Yeah.
and yes, they're getting numbers, but they're not. I mean, like that as an artist, that doesn't sound very satisfying just to make music
Well,
that
no,
is
of course
just
not.
background music and then no one really cares, but you're getting numbers. They're making money. And so it's a business venture. Sure. And yes, can AI take over that space? Yes. I just don't think anyone cares about that space really. No one.
I don't think anyone our age care. I mean, again, I just don't. I look at it kind of like how iTunes disrupted music,
Sure.
or like where it come in, and or even just the internet disrupting
Streaming.
music.
Yeah. Yeah.
streaming, internet, like just how CDs went to the wayside. And so my fear is what are we going to lose? And then how much harder is it going to be able to do how much harder is it going to be to be able to do the thing we want to do?
Mm.
These are my questions. I
Sure.
don't know how it's going to shake out,
Yeah.
but I do think it's going to be very disruptive. Um, and my fear is that people who, like let's say River's generation or whatever,
Sure.
River, he likes to play Roblox,
Yep.
and which I hate. I hate the idea of Roblox, all this kind of stuff.
Reese isn't allowed to play
Um,
with Roblox. He can play
yeah,
with
I
Minecraft.
don't. There's a great video of like how it's really
There's a
like dangerous towards children and like how it's
pedophiles like
targeting.
shit. Yes.
Oh, of course,
It's
yeah.
like
I mean,
pedophile city on Roblox. That's why we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
and that, and just even this like targeting people to make content and like how you don't
Yeah.
get paid for. Anyway, there's a lot of problems with that. I'm not worried about River with pedophiles and
No.
Roblox right now,
No.
but he wants to like watch. He wants to watch people play Roblox on
Sure.
his
Yeah. Yeah.
phone
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or watch people play Roblox on the TV. He's
Yeah.
like, "Can I watch, this whatever
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
TV?" And I'm like, "No, like and I maybe and this is people can judge me for this or not. I'm like, I want you to watch narrative-based content. Like there's a
Mm.
time and place, obviously, to watch Coco Melon, because you're
Sure.
learning and your rhythms and those
Yeah.
kind of things. But also, like, I want you to be able to get, like, you're not going to get something from watching someone play a game, especially at
Mm.
your age. Like,
Yeah.
have I watched people play games? Yeah, when I
Yeah.
was like in college or after my frontal lobe has developed more. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, I don't know if it's good for children to do that. But because of Roblox being a disruptor, and because like things like Minecraft and all these other,
Yeah.
we kind of Fortnite and trace the lineage back, we can see how the pattern has changed this
Sure.
next generation, and how's that going to affect gaming later, or affect how their attention spans with movies later. Like I wonder, because
It could
you
be.
and I are in this weird generation where we were like on the cusp of internet starting, but also we were like in our adolescence.
Sure.
So we got to have one toe in the world of like cable TV, and then
Sure.
the next toe in internet, but like not being a place where we lost the ability to text, or what I'm
Sure.
saying? Like we
Yeah.
still got to kind of keep up with technology in a cool way. And so I don't know what's going to happen with AI,
Yeah.
and it's scary. It's exciting because I think it's just
Sure.
it's I like new technology. It's cool, but I'm also scared because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm not as anxious about it. I think
Well, I'm not
personally.
losing sleep
No,
over
no,
it,
no, no.
but
I just think I'm not. I'm a little. I guess I'm a little more excited than scared. Is what I want to say. I'm more excited for the new versus afraid of what we'll lose, because I just don't see us losing anything that's like really, really crucial. That's just me. And I think the thing is we've had iPad kids for over a decade now. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could have had an iPad kid in 2009 or whenever they first came out, and just Minecraft's been out since 2005. Roblox has been out since 2006 or 7. Like, so it's like we've already had a generation raised on that, and video games are still video games, and the best video games are still the most popular ones. Cyberpunk, The Last of Us, like that hasn't changed. Those kids are grown up now. Those kids are playing the big games, and just because they spent all day, every day on YouTube and Minecraft growing up doesn't mean their tastes don't evolve. You know what I mean? And so I think
get that part of it.
I'm hopeful, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm hopeful that yes, things will change. Yes, some things will be lost. I don't know what of value will be lost. I don't know. You know what I mean?
My biggest concern is movie theaters. That's my biggest concern.
That I think that is a valid concern.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because like I've been watching multiple movies on my VR the last couple
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And granted, there's like a thing called the Big Screen Beyond, which like it's basically like just tiny goggles,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like light, it doesn't hurt your face, blah blah blah. But it's like $1,000. So and that's only gonna get better and better eventually. I would
Yeah.
assume it'd be
Yeah.
like contact lenses or something. You can put that in maybe 10, 15
Yes.
years from now,
Yeah. Yeah.
or sooner.
Yeah.
But right now even though I'm in this VR headspace, and it feel, I can look to my right and I can see movie theaters seats,
Mhm.
and it kind of gives me a sensation of being in a movie theater. But then I went Sunday to watch The Accountant 2, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's different. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like I was under no real illusion that it wasn't different.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh yeah, this is what we got to protect. We got to
Yeah.
protect this.
Yeah.
And so I am afraid that we are going to lose it. And it makes sense that we lose it,
I think we
Um,
will lose its current form, but I
I
don't
think there
think it
might
will
be
ever
like
completely go away.
maybe like one or two. This is like the worst case scenario. one or two per big city per state. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Like it'll be like, but then it's like what plays there? Like, will they make Avengers for that? Because
Right.
the
Yeah,
budgets, well, Mission
yeah.
Impossible, the newest one, who has a, and this is because of the strikes, whatever, it's got a $400 million budget reportedly,
Wow.
which is makes it one of, if not the most expensive movie ever made.
Wow.
Will that get to play? Like, where's the investment there? Like, already, I don't think it'll make money. I don't know how it's going to make money, but I'm like,
Yeah.
where, how do you do that with only 50 screens versus now 4,000? We've had 4,000 forever.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I could
anyway,
also see it becoming more just like the Alamo Draft House style, where because they're boutique, you got to pay $100 to go to a movie night. You know what I mean? Like, and that
yeah, but like,
sucks.
who's gonna?
But
Yeah, I mean, like,
I
I
agree.
mean, maybe the movies will get better. Maybe we'll lose superhero movies and lose the blockbuster, but we'll get indie art house films, and because they're only
Maybe.
playing 1,000 theaters in the U.S. versus 4,000 now, and their budgets will be much smaller, but there'll be less risk on, less
Interesting.
risk
Yeah.
on it.
It'll be very interesting to see how everything goes. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
revisit this conversation in 15 years. Bro.
Absolutely. On episode 4021, 41, 39.
I would be so lucky if we hit 4,000
I'd love it.
in 15 years. Statistically, it's not going to happen. We'd be like on episode probably 750 is what we'd be on in 15 years. In full episode 1,000 in 15 years from now. So we hit 250 in
Doing
5
like
years.
50 a year ish.
Yeah, we hit 250 in five and a
Yeah.
half years. So yeah, it
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. Yep.
Almost 5.5 years.
Yep.
So anyway, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write in to bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you think of the studio
Yeah.
and
What we're talking about?
Hollywood and streaming and AI and everything else. We would love to hear what you think is going on in the industry, where you think it's going, all that kind of stuff. bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't find us at our Billy, you can always find us in the comment section below, youtube.com/@241studios. The best place to see all the content. Guys, we are getting ready for episode 241 with the good doctor, Dr. Bruce Anderson. But until then, next episode we'll be talking about Andor, as we did back into Star Wars, and then our
So
final, or episode 241, I should say. And then
Did we get 3 more episodes today?
today. Yeah, today.
I gotta say, I love the 3-episode-a-week model. I think it is the absolute best version of both worlds of getting your water cooler talk without drip feeding a story that makes you feel like you barely got anything every week. I love it.
The structure helps also with like how they're doing Andor. I've only watched the first 2 episodes of Andor because I'm like I have 3 a week. I'm like spreading like
Sure,
every 2 days I'm trying
yeah.
to watch one,
Yeah.
and kind of feel like I'm not. I like knowing I have one I could watch. You know, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. No,
And
I
so
agree.
I kind of like doing it how I'm doing it, but also I wanted to make sure I knew that if I finished it, then I would want to talk about that
Sure. Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
And also, like I was like, I'm not changing the thumbnails. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So it's we're sticking to it. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken. I'm sure you saw Travis sent to us, but I think when he sent to us is 95%. It's
saw
been
that.
88% the last hour, but
Still,
that's solid, dude. That's super
real
solid.
good for a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Isn't that sad? You just said what you just said. But
It
yeah,
is.
you're correct. All right. My name is Donovan Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.